office or your transistor radio. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app, the sound is clear as a bell. All day, all night, anywhere in the world. From Los Angeles to Lagos. So, we love all of our listeners, no matter how you hear us. But when you download the KBLA 1580 app and hear that richness, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. But don't take my word for it. Download the KBLA 1580 app right now. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I approve this message.
1, 2, 3, go! I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You seem like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. Yes, I will. I'm just happy to see you talk to me back in style again.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, we're still 2 months away from Election Day, but the state of Texas has preemptively started raiding the homes of campaign workers in an area of the state that will be hotly contested come November. The League of Latin American Citizens CEO Juan Proaño, on his organization's fight alongside black leaders in Texas at the top of hour two. They are already, we're just now starting to cast votes, and in Texas, they're already raiding the homes of campaign workers in an area that they expect to be hotly contested. This would be funny if it weren't so serious. On the B side of our two and our climate justice series continuing, philanthropist Melanie Allen talks about financially supporting black-led organizations in the climate care space and why centering equity is the most effective way to achieve our climate goals. In our third hour, Dedrick Asante Muhammad, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, on their latest report, The Best Black Economy in Generations and Why It Isn't Enough. The best black economy in generations and why it is not enough. That's in our third hour. In this first hour today, two more conversations on the B side of this hour.
Because he introduced these bills without them. He introduced these bills without their blessing. And internally, inside the caucus, and I'm just going to spill out the tea.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
It's inside of the California Legislative Caucus. They were fighting. They have been fighting internally all year, and they were mad at Bradford because he did not work as closely as they wanted him to work with them on these bills. And so they saw an opportunity, and the governor gave them the cover to hurt Senator Bradford when he least expects to sucker punch us politically at the very, very final 11th hour. I mean, so that's what was really going on. It was, I'm scared of the governor and I don't want to do this, and I'm mad. Listen, we were getting texts from caucus members saying to us, "Hey, your boy Bradford effed up. He should have did this. He should have did that." We're like, wait a minute. This is coming from caucus members. And we're like, wait a minute. Y'all need to get y'all stuff. Like, the people don't care what's going on inside of your house.
That's right.
Get your stuff together and do this for the people. There is no excuse.
That was a conversation yesterday I had with the lead organizer on this reparations movement, Chris Lodson. The Bradford that he speaks of is State Senator Steve Bradford. We will talk to Steve Bradford on the B side of this hour about his role in attempting to advance reparations legislation here in California and the extreme disappointment and outrage over the California Legislative Black Caucus's complicity, that's my word, their complicity with Governor Gavin Newsom installing these reparations bills. The eyes of the nation are watching California. I've said many times what happens in California politics either cast a long shadow or a long sunbeam across the nation. And I could not be more disappointed in the California Legislative Black Caucus and their complicity with Governor Gavin Newsom installing these reparations bills just days ago. We'll talk to Steve Bradford about it on the B side of this hour. We commenced today's show in conversation with State Representative Chris Rabb, talking about the swingiest of swing states, Pennsylvania. There are generally thought to be 7 states that are most in play: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. But 2 of those states loom particularly large: Georgia and the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. When we come forward, we will commence our conversation with Chris Rabb, state rep in Pennsylvania, about why Pennsylvania is such a swing state, particularly in this election. We'll start that conversation when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Dr. Renee here. Did you know this time of year is considered peak asthma season because we typically see a spike in asthma-related hospitalizations? If you have asthma and are having difficulty breathing despite medication, it's time to check in with your doctor so you can help avoid landing yourself in the hospital this season. To learn more about managing your asthma, visit www.luma-edu.com. That's LUMA-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here's what happens when you advertise on KBLA Talk 1580.
3, possibly 4 weeks ago, I heard an advertisement on your radio station from a company called Grid Solar. I would love to have that phone number so I can reach out to them with reference to solar panels being installed on my property.
Our listeners are aware and engaged, but more than that, they are loyal. When they hear empowering messages that uplift their community and help them live better lives, they respond. No medium reaches this coveted black audience like KBLA Talk 1580. So, hit us up today at smb@kbla1580.com and let us help you connect with our loyal listeners. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Money to bud. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Let's get started with Pennsylvania State Rep Chris Rabb, who I'm honored to have on this program. Mr. Rabb, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me back on the show. It's been a while.
It has been a while. My great honor to have you back. Let me just jump right in and make the most of the time we have here. Why is Pennsylvania such a swing state?
That's because it is a very big commonwealth of 13 million people with a lot of lived experience between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. So we have everything. We have Appalachia. We have urban. We have suburban. We have fracking country. We have coal country. We have a strong workforce in terms of energy production. We have everything you can imagine, and it represents kind of society at large. And so these different demographics kind of pull with the political winds. And Joe Biden won by 80,000 votes, which is a very thin victory. And we're hoping that, it will not be so difficult this time around, but that's up to the people.
Yep. Tell me how one goes about effectively campaigning in a state that is that diverse. You broke it down quite nicely. I spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania over the years. I know something of what you just said. But how does one go about campaigning effectively? I mean, you can't be inconsistent in your messaging. You can't say something here and something else there. So you want to be consistent in your messaging. But how does one message effectively in a state, particularly this year, that is that uniquely different, that diverse?
Well, I have to question your underlying assumptions about what politicians and candidates do. I think too often many of them do, in fact. I mean, listen, I pride myself on going in front of any audience and saying the same thing in different ways based on my audience, but I'm not going to change my values or priorities. But if you say one thing to one thing, so for instance, a lot of the concerns, remaining concerns around the ascendancy of Kamala Harris into the nomination is where she actually stands on things that are of particular importance or impact on black folks, whether it's what's happening at the border, whether it's fracking and environmental racism, whether it's, her background as a prosecutor, whether it's related to Gaza, right? What is the message, right? And are you saying the same thing, perhaps differently, to different constituencies? And if you're not, then who's going to hold that person to account? And this is not just for her. This is for anybody. Right? And here's the problem I have. Pennsylvania is the second largest producer of fracked gas. But most Pennsylvanians, and that's most people who do not live near fracked lands, really don't know what it is. They don't know how awful it is. They don't know how it benefits them. They may hear about it, but it's not something that we identify as like, oh, to be a Pennsylvanian, I love fracking, even though it's a huge part of the economy. So there's a lot of people who advise Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and others who are saying, oh, when you come to Pennsylvania, you got to be pro-fracking. I don't hear any average Pennsylvanian, Philadelphian or otherwise, who's like rah-rah fracking. What I do hear is my kid has asthma, right? I do hear that. Well, I hear about the environmental degradation of the use of fossil fuels in particular, and how this youngest generation of voters is making family decisions about whether or not we believe the earth will sustain human life, which directly affects how the next president will decide on the course of our energy policy. So when they come to Philly, you can be silent on fracking to avoid that controversial issue, but you shouldn't be silent on environmental racism, which directly relates to fracking policy in this state.
Make that.
You have to, yeah.
No. Make that. That's a powerful point. I got a couple follow-ups right quick, but that's a powerful point. Rather, make that connection for me: environmental racism and that link to fracking.
So, fracking is hydraulic fracturing. So you're basically fracturing the ground under the surface of the earth, and you're pushing it high pressure through water and undisclosed dozens of chemicals to release gas that is by no means natural by the time it comes up. It's methane, which is 80 times worse than carbon dioxide. So it is awful. And where they put these frac pads, where they put the pipelines and so forth, are in places where they believe those communities don't have political capital. That's not where rich people live. That's generally where not, white folk who are of influence live. And so they're fence lines and frontline communities who are being victimized by this form of environmental racism. And we don't know about it because corporate media does not connect the dots, because they're complicit in this. And they also influence elected officials. And in Pennsylvania, I think it's really important to have us to know there are no campaign contribution limits. So if you really loved what I did today on the show, you could give me $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that in California. Can't do that in a lot of states. You can in Pennsylvania. Also, you should know, Tavis, that lobbyists could buy me a summer house to get me to shut up to talking about how bad fracking is. And as long as I disclosed it on the document, I can accept the summer house from a lobbyist. So Pennsylvania is very textured politically, topographically, demographically. And so it is really, truly a swing state unless black folk come out in force. And in Pennsylvania, like a lot of states, there's one major city.
Yep.
And that city is Philadelphia. It's 1.6 million. The next largest city is Pittsburgh with roughly 300,000. So it's not even close.
Yep.
So if Philly black folk who are already registered come out to vote, this will not be a major issue. But the problem is Philadelphians, irrespective of race, have not been coming out in elections in the past few years. And the establishment doesn't know how to get out the vote. And the Democratic Party nationally does not invest in black communities. They invest in white consultants.
Yep. So there's a lot to follow up on in these 10 minutes that I have left. Let me start my interrogation here. Let me start with this. I know Philly rather well, and what you say, of course, is true because you live there and you are an elected official in the state. You understand this better than I ever could. What I do know is that Philadelphia, its low turnout notwithstanding, recently, not so recently, elected a black woman. The first black woman as its mayor. Now there's a black woman running for president. Will that have nothing to do with inspiring black folk to turn out in November?
No, because this is a big deal to a lot of people, and I think it's probably generational. I don't know if it's enough. I mean, it's nice, but if you weren't bowled over by the convention and you're used to seeing black folk doing things in various positions, like the younger you are, the more used. Like if you were a kid who grew up with a black president for 8 years,
that's right.
That's your point of reference.
That's right.
Right. So I don't think there's staying power over the next 60 days. It's like if you're black, you're like, okay, cool. Okay, but where is she on Gaza? Where is she on this? Where is she on that? They may want to know where she actually stands and what is the material impact on their lives collectively, not as individuals. Because when we talk about voting, one of the problems I have is we don't really vote for ourselves. We vote for our families. We vote for our neighborhoods. We may vote for our city or our affinity communities, right? So as a black person, I could never X, Y, and Z. Or as a gay person or whatever you identify with, you're casting your ballot communally, and that matters too. And so the last thing I want to say about this, Tavis, is we have a black mayor, first woman mayor, 100th mayor, but only 1 out of 10 Democrats voted for her. So it's not a mandate. Only a third of registered Democrats came out, and only a third of them voted for her. So only 1 out of 10 registered Democrats. That is a small percentage of all Philadelphians because most Philadelphians did not vote. Most voters did not vote, and most Democratic voters did not vote at all. So there was not the type of ascendancy that we see in Kamala Harris in Philadelphia with the mayor.
Would it have made a difference? Might have made a difference if she had picked Josh Shapiro instead of Tim Walz.
It would not have gone well for her.
Wow.
The reason there would not be a Kamala Harris. And listen, and I may be the only person who says this publicly.
Yeah.
But there is a distinct, like everyone knows their person from their state. And
sure.
It's different. Like we see Josh Shapiro as being very charismatic and eloquent and engaging and so forth. And he's all those things. But it's much more complicated when he is an active governor addressing issues that people care about in ways that, we have not found particularly compelling or appropriate. And the last piece I want to say about this is there would be no Kamala Harris ascendancy if it were not for the uncommitted movement. And the uncommitted PA movement was able to garner 65,000 people to say, I'm withholding my vote in the primary to make a stand, to make sure that whomever is going to be president has a Middle East policy that is humane and anti-militaristic. And as a result of that, not just his bad performance, Biden stepped down. So for Kamala Harris to not address this continuing progressive vein of saying we need more beyond representational politics, like that's her opportunity to do the right thing and lead boldly.
Yeah.
And without it, she may not be able to get over the hump. I hope she does, but I want that to be led with good policy.
Sure. Since you went there, let me follow you. We're talking later in today's show about climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's part of a continuing 12-month series of climate justice conversations that I'm spearheading and moderating, of course, on this program with regularity. But since you went there again, let me follow you. You're talking about fracking and environmental racism and other issues regarding climate. What's your sense? What's your read at this moment of where Kamala stands? And this is a big question on issues of the environment, specifically as they relate to black people.
Listen, I believe that she understands the impact of environmental racism in our country. I believe she is a smart and competent elected official, but she is a candidate who is going to have a hard time getting the type of continuing momentum she needs as a policymaker. So she's going to have to thread the needle. And so when she comes to places where she's been advised, oh, this is a fracking state, she's going to vacillate. But here's the bigger issue. I hate fracking. I hate it. But unless we decide we're not going to charge our phones all the time and go Amish, we're going to continue to need fracking until we have enough capacity with wind and solar to replace it. If we don't, that means more nuclear energy. So if you don't like that, and we're not investing more in solar and wind, which frankly we are, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act under the Biden administration, then we're moving in the right direction. But we can't, even if we wanted to, we couldn't ban it right now. We could say we are not going to expand fracking, and that could be a way for her to say, look, we got to use what we have, but we are investing like no other administration ever has in renewable energy. There's a way to do it. I just wish she did that versus kind of be silent and kind of, vacillate.
So you reminded us moments ago, Representative Rabb, that Joe Biden barely won the Keystone State of Pennsylvania by 80,000 votes. That's too close for comfort, if I can put it that way. But you also said that you hope it won't be as tough this time around for Kamala Harris. I'm trying to juxtapose, trying to square your commentary in this half hour with the notion that maybe it won't be so tough for her this time. I'm having a hard time squaring those two things, brother. Help me out.
Hey, so am I. so am I. Listen, just as a point of reference, I represent 4 neighborhoods in Northwest Philadelphia that represent a district that is the bluest dot in the entire Commonwealth. So the tip of the spear in the entire country is my backyard. So it's a majority black district with unusually high voter turnout, even though it can be better. My concern is the people who still have policy concerns. They love the fact that a black woman could be president, but ultimately it's where she stands on issues that matter most to them. And I think it's important that we hold people to account. So even if we vote in spite of someone's record, we can say we're coming out to let you know we're coming out in force, but we will hold you to account on things that you have not squared up on. The other piece is Kamala Harris is more compelling a candidate than Joe Biden. We also know how awful Trump is. We have 4 more years experience around that.
Right.
So that's helpful. But the piece that I'm concerned about are the disaffected, progressive, and other folks within the black community and beyond who are really concerned about where she stands on issues that are important to them. And I really think we are owed meaningful and substantive responses to those policies because that's how we hold our electeds to account, myself included.
I got 2 minutes left. I want to give it to you. You used the word by my count 4 times in this conversation. I want to give you a chance to unpack in these last 2 minutes. It is the word accountability. Black people love shiny new things. We love shiny new pennies. We love bragging rights. We love circling the wagons. We love African American first. We do not love, as much as I wish we did, holding these African American first accountable. Why is that so difficult for us to do?
Man, because we're American. We're as American as anybody else. And that is, the shiny object. Like these things are created to distract and confuse and divide us. And it also, we also want to feel good. I mean, this ain't easy being black out here, right?
Yeah.
So we want to feel good. If we have something that symbolizes something that gives us some faith, gives us some direction, we're going to embrace it. But something you said many years ago, because I was on your show 19 years ago. I don't know if you remember, but 19 years ago, we talked about similar conversations. And you have talked about dissent and how important, how necessary dissent is for black people when we hold elected officials and others who claim to be leaders to account.
Mm-hmm.
You said that, and I agreed. And, you know, there weren't a lot of people who were prepared to do that with Barack Obama because he was just like the perfect candidate. But 8 years later, when we look at the track record, and we can say, oh, he did this, that, and the other in extraordinarily well, we can also say, you know, there's some things that really were problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But if we know that someone has a track record coming into this position, we can hold them to account by saying, this is what you've said, this is what you've done, this is what you've said most recently. Where are you on these issues? Because as this contingent of black folks, we are concerned about X, Y, and Z. And we have to do that now. We can't wait till they get in office. We have to prove that this is a big enough concern to be a priority, and we'll weigh in on how we will vote.
I got 20 seconds left. At this point, anything could change between now and November, and will a bunch of times. But how are you feeling about how this swingy state of Pennsylvania will, in fact, swing November 5?
I think it will be closer than it should be because the Democratic Party continues to not invest in black and brown communities like it should. And that type of institutional racism within that party has to be addressed.
I love a truth teller. I could talk to truth tellers all day long, and Chris Rabb is one of them, Pennsylvania State Rep. Good to have you on the program. We'll do it again, and it won't take 19 years to do it, I promise.
Glad to be back.
Stay strong. When we come forward, California State Senator Steve Bradford. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Dalton, Illinois' embattled mayor is taking action despite trustees canceling a meeting. African-American Mayor Tiffany Henyard appointed a new village administrator and new village attorney last night, even after the meeting was canceled due to a lack of trustees. Overdoses from antidepressants have been steadily rising for the past 2 decades. An analysis of data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows that they've been increasing about 2% a year between 1999 and 2022. The Mega Millions jackpot is now up to $740 million. Nobody matched all 6 numbers in last night's drawing for $680 million, so the grand prize in the nationwide lottery will roll over to Friday's drawing. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer custom-made faux wood and real wood blinds and shutters, cellular shades, Roman shades, bamboo shades, exterior shades, and more, all at factory direct prices. Don't pay too much for new blinds. Go to Blindster.com.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Francis Tiafoe is edging closer to his first Grand Slam tennis championship. The 26-year-old African-American star advanced to the semifinals of the U.S. Open. Tiafoe was leading Grigor Dimitrov of Bulgaria when Dimitrov quit the match in the fourth set because of an injury. Tiafoe had a 4-1 lead in the fourth set and had won 2 of the first 3 sets. The native of Hyattsville, Maryland, will play fellow American Taylor Fritz in Friday's semifinals. Tiafoe is trying to become the first African-American male to win the U.S. Open since Arthur Ashe in 1968. He's also trying to become the first American male to win the U.S. Open since Andy Roddick in 2006. Mookie Betts hit a 3-run homer in the 10th inning to spark the Dodgers to a 6-2 win over the Angels Tuesday night in Anaheim. A sellout crowd of over 44,000 filled Anaheim Stadium to see the return of Dodger star Shohei Ohtani. The Japanese icon played his first 6 seasons with the Angels. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. On Tuesday, September 10th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will square off in their first ever presidential debate. KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress are hosting a viewing party, and we're inviting you to join us for an evening of civic engagement, great food, and good vibes. Our studio space is limited, but if you would like to join us, just go to our website at KBLA1580.com and register for your chance to watch this historic presidential debate with us. Years from now, we're all likely to remember exactly where we were when this pivotal moment in American politics unfolded. So, register for your chance to join us by going to KBLA1580.com right now. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Hey, checking in?
This is not just your flu shot appointment at Walgreens.
Yes. Yeah.
This is getting your entire family vaccinated in one trip.
Hey, Mom?
And a snack on the way out. Get flu shots for everyone in your family, together. Schedule appointments online today. This is wellness made easy. Walgreens.
Vaccine subject to availability and for ages 3+. State and health-related restrictions may apply.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery on select smart beds when you add any base. Ends Labor Day. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed. In a moment of conversation with State Senator Steve Bradford, California State Senator Steve Bradford, on his role in attempting to advance reparations legislation here in the state of California and the extreme disappointment and outrage over the California Legislative Black Caucus's complicity, that's my word, their complicity, with Governor Gavin Newsom installing these reparations bills on the last day of the session on Friday. First, though, some sound from Chris Lotson, who's lead organizer and advocate for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, on this program in dialogue with me just yesterday.
Because he introduced these bills without them. He introduced these bills without their blessing. And internally, inside the caucus, and I'm just going to spill out the tea.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
It's inside of the California Legislative Caucus. They were fighting. They have been fighting internally all year. And they were mad at Bradford because he did not work as closely as they wanted him to work with them on these bills. And so they saw an opportunity, and the governor gave them the cover to hurt Senator Bradford when he least expects to sucker punch us politically at the very, very final 11th hour. I mean, so that's what was really going on. It was, I'm scared of the governor and I don't want to do this, and I'm mad. Listen, we were getting texts from caucus members saying to us, "Hey, your boy Bradford effed up. He should have did this. He should have did that." We're like, wait a minute. This is coming from caucus members, and we're like, wait a minute. Y'all need to get y'all stuff. Like, the people don't care what's going on inside of your house.
That's right.
Get your stuff together and do this for the people. There is no excuse.
So that was Chris Lotson, now the voice of State Senator Steve Bradford. First of all, my friend, good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
What happened?
Hey, well, I'm still trying to scratch my head on that, but it was a great disappointment. The 1403, 1050, which did get off the assembly floor, and 1331 that did not get off the floor, had the votes. I've done this for 14 years. We make sure we have votes before you bring your bill up. We knew we had the votes for those bills. 1403, as well as 1050 and 1331 had just got out of Appropriations Committee just 2 weeks prior to that with not a single amendment. And 1403 was a California Legislative Black Caucus priority bill. And it's the same bill that they endorsed in May. It hadn't changed at all. So I was kind of surprised, but more importantly disappointed, not necessarily for myself, but for black folks in California and across this nation that were holding out hope that we would be the example of what could be done when it comes to reparations. Because
why would members of the California legislature, African-American members, the Legislative Black Caucus, why would they have signed on to this bill, SB 1403? They were sponsors of it. It got out of committee, to your point, Appropriations Committee, without a single amendment. It finally gets to it's time for the real deal. It's to the floor. It's time for the vote. The session is ending, and they went MIA. I don't. That's the part I don't get. They were sponsors of this bill. Are they that scared of Gavin Newsom? What happened?
I don't know, because the bill had not been changed. Now, please understand, 2 weeks ago when I was in Chicago for the Democratic convention, I ran into Chair Wilson, Lori Wilson, the California Legislative Black Caucus. I'm the vice chair. And she pulled me to the side and she says, "Hey, Bradford, I hear the administration has some concerns about 1403. I said, "Okay, what are they?" And she couldn't articulate them. So I did what I've done for the last 14 years. I got on the phone. I called my staff. I says, "Have we heard from the administration, the governor's office?" They said, "No." I says, "Well, let's reach out and see what those issues may be." And I landed Friday morning, and first thing we had a 1 o'clock Zoom meeting with the finance director, Joe Steffenshaw, one of the most honest shooters in the administration, and since I've been in Sacramento. And he said, "Hey, there are some financial concerns. You know, we're in a deficit year," which all made sense. But at no time did he say we would veto the bill. He said, "Yes, the governor and the administration have some concerns about the bill." And I says, "Okay, you got any amendments?" At that time on Friday, he did not have amendments. The following Monday, the last week of session, we got amendments around 4 or 5 o'clock that day. We were on the floor because that was the last week of session. We were going late. I didn't get a chance to look at them until sometime after 6 o'clock. We huddled up with my team and we says, "We're not going to take these amendments." And that's not the first time we've ever said we're not taking amendments. And from there, it started going south. And again, Lori seemed to know before me that there was concerns about the bill. So I don't know where this all came up. I'm totally blindsided by it because, again, they were all co-authors of the bill. nothing in the bill has changed because, again, we refused the amendments. So if they're upset that I didn't take the amendments, that's one thing. But at the same time, the governor's administration never verbalized that a veto was imminent. So
should these bills, let me just ask you some point-blank questions, direct questions. Should these bills have gone to the governor's desk?
Oh, without a doubt.
Why do you think they did not?
Again, I can't answer that. They said that, Lori Wilson has said that, the governor or the administration had threatened a veto, the possible veto, and the veto wouldn't look good on reparations bills. And I'm like, well, us holding them on is just as...
Do you think Gavin Newsom is partly responsible or primarily responsible for stalling these reparations bills?
I can't speak to that because he's been an honest broker with me on all my bills. We've always talked. He worked with the Black Caucus from the first part of this year on understanding what our priorities were. And so his staff was always on hand. So like I say, this is coming out of left field. So I would say, why be at the table making sure that we were all on the same accord all the way up to the last week and then all of a sudden say, hey, pull the rug from under it. So I can't throw that blame on the governor because, again, we didn't have that direct conversation.
How should black voters in California, you heard what Chris Lotchin has to say. He ain't the only one. I'm told there's a massive meeting being organized for tomorrow night here in Los Angeles to discuss these issues and what happens next. But how should California black voters feel about a governor whose idea this was for, in part, his idea for this task force? They've done all the work. You were on the task force. You did all the work. You had all the meetings. You took all the testimony, all the expert testimony. You had all these public hearings. The bills have passed out of committee without any amendment. Now it's time for this thing to go down, and nobody wants to blame the governor. I will. This is me, not you. Gavin Newsom is partly responsible for this. Let's just call it what it is. And the California Legislative Black Caucus got punked. They punked on this. That's just a fact. It is what it is. I can say that. You don't have to say it. But the question is, how should black California voters feel about a process that has been advancing? It's built, it's grown, and you get to the moment of truth, and they pull the rug from underneath you. I mean, I don't know how black voters are supposed to feel about that.
I know they're hurt. They're disappointed. They're verbalizing that. They're expressing that in many ways. One of the ways I'm not excited about how they're expressing is the direct threats that are going to my colleagues. I don't think that should be happening. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I understand folks are upset because it's many of the same folks who came for 2 years to the reparations task force and let their voices be heard. And I let my colleagues know, they weren't supporting me many times on the task force. If I wasn't voting the way they wanted, then, it was a lot of them saying, where's my check? Where's my land? And we were saying, hey, reparations is not necessarily about checks. We were trying to level set, at least I was. And so I got a lot of this pushback for those 2 years. So now they're experiencing what many of the task force members have. So I know they're upset. I mean, and they rightfully so.
This is why people don't trust the political process, and they don't trust politicians. And I make a distinction between public servants and politicians. But this is precisely why people don't trust the political process. It's just a cesspool. And I believe the hottest place in hell is reserved for black people who sell out other black people. More when we come forward. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
I said yesterday, and I reiterate today, that I believe every one of these black persons ought to be primaried. That's just me. You ain't got to agree. But I said yesterday, I repeat again, that if we did like our Jewish brothers and sisters, when you are not in alignment with their agenda, they primary you. Don't believe me? Ask Jamal Bowman. Don't believe me? Ask Corey Bush. These Negroes sold black people out. Full stop. They sold us out. They should have advanced these bills to the governor's desk and let him decide. Here's what I don't like. Let me just tell you exactly what it is. I don't like when black folk get played by anybody, particularly politicians. I can't stand that. This was Gavin Newsom's idea for this task force. He was behind this idea. He never meant it in the first place. Let me tell you how I know that. Because he knows that if he had vetoed those bills, when he does run for president down the road, black folk would have reminded him all across the country, hey, you vetoed reparations in California. We ain't supporting you. And you know he wants to be president. He's licking his wounds right now that Kamala jumped in front of him. I'm keeping it real. He's playing second fiddle to Kamala. He's licking his wounds. He ain't happy about that. But he still wants to be president. He knows that if he had vetoed these bills, he's going to get reminded about that when he runs for president down the road. On the other hand, if he had signed the bills, the good white folk are going to remind him down the road that you started this mess giving these Negroes money in California. And now black folk everywhere else in every other state want reparations. I told you before, what happens in California politics either cast a long shadow or a long sunbeam. They're watching us. Gavin played y'all. He was never going to sign no reparations bills. He wanted your vote for re-election. He wanted you to save him in the recall. He was never serious in the first place. That's me. Now, back to Senator Bradford. When this bill, if these bills ever truly get passed, you will not be in the Senate to celebrate that. You're termed out now. How does that feel? You worked on this all these years, and you ain't even going to be there if it ever does happen.
It's disappointing, but it's never been about me. I'm heartbroken more so for all the people who had hopes and put their energy into making sure 1403 and 1050 and 1331 made it through both of those houses as it did. So I'm more disappointed for them. I think my legacy, if you want to call it that, will speak for itself. I've always been a public servant who has shown up, stood up, spoke up, and didn't run from a fight. So I hope that's what people remember me for more so than reparations. Yes, would that have been a nice cornerstone?
That's a crown jewel, brother.
Without a doubt,
Yeah.
without a doubt. But again, I'm not doing it for the personal accolades, but I definitely would have been honored to have been able to carry it to the finish line and deliver for not only California, but for the nation as well.
2 more questions for Steve Bradford when we come forward, including what happens next from his vantage point. What happens now? And as many of us know in California, Steve Bradford's running for lieutenant governor. I wonder how all of this impacts his race for lieutenant governor. Now that he's termed out as state senator, that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties. Classic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Do I choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
As fall approaches, you have a lot to prepare for. Back to school, sporting events, family gatherings, and staying on top of your health. The virus that causes COVID-19 continues to evolve. So this fall, no matter what you're prepping for, you can prioritize your family's health and make a game plan for COVID-19 vaccination. Ask your doctor or pharmacist to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
I was just saying to Senator Bradford during that break that Gavin Newsom is licking his wounds about Kamala jumping in front of him. He mad and lashing out at everybody else. You recall, this is the same Gavin Newsom that signed that executive order going after the unhoused, clearing off the streets. I know Karen Bass wasn't happy about that. So he's going after the homeless. Now he's going after Negroes, selling us out on reparations. He mad and just, again, slapping everybody else in the process. This is the Gavin Newsom we up against right now. And I said it. I will not apologize for it. I say it lovingly. I say it respectfully, but it's truthful that the unhoused have taken it on the chin, black folk taking it on the chin while he licks his wounds. I digress on that for now. But I said to Senator Bradford also that I've been around a long time. And on a personal level, I'm not a pacifist. Dr. King is my hero, but I'm not a pacifist. If you slap me, Negro, I will slap you back. If you hit me, I will knock you out. That's just the way I am. And King is my hero, but I am not a pacifist. I say that because I've seen this so many times in my career where you think you're dispossessing someone, you think you're disenfranchising someone, and they come back harder. My sense is that the movement will lick its wounds for a couple days, But as evidenced by this meeting tomorrow and the meetings to come, my view is that this is going to energize the movement. That's my sense. Your take, Senator Bradford.
I agree with you. I mean, these folks are not going away. They didn't go away for the 2 years that we did the task force. They followed us up and down the state. They're passionate about this issue. I mean, again, and this is not just a California movement. This is a national movement. Everybody was watching this.
Sure.
So I think it's going to motivate folks. They're going to galvanize folks to say, hey, give us real reparations.
What happens next? What should happen next?
Just staying focused and putting the pressure on the legislature when they start the new year out that these bills need to be reintroduced. I have no doubt that there will be members of the Black Caucus be willing to move forward with these bills. I guess my only question would be, if they're worthy of moving forward at the beginning of next session, why weren't they worthy of moving forward right now? So that's the only question I would ask.
Yep. And finally, you're running for lieutenant governor. You're termed out. You've served honorably. Let me just take a moment to say thank you for your work and witness and for your love and service all these years. But you've termed out in the Assembly. You've termed out in the Senate. Now you're running for lieutenant governor. How do you think this impacts your race for lieutenant governor?
Well, I got 3 more months before I'm gone, but
yeah. but I may not see you in 3 months. I'm telling you that.
I got it. But I hope it shines a light on my leadership and the fact that I've always been willing, as I said, to show up, stand up, speak up, and sometimes have to show out in order to get something done. I've never put my finger in the wind to see which way it was blowing. I've always listened to the people. I've represented folks. I've been a public servant. As I told folks, I've never been a politician. I've been a public servant who just happens to be elected, and I'm committed to doing the work. And I think my 25 years plus as an elected official, that has been demonstrated on all levels, whether it was in the city of Gardena when we turned that city around, when it was on the brink of bankruptcy, to the state of California when I got to the Assembly, when we were in the biggest deficit since the Great Depression, and what I've done in the Senate, from NIL to, Ebony Alert to SB2, police decertification, real legislation that has had a direct impact on people.
I don't know who else is running for lieutenant governor in California, but I do know one person running who obviously has the back of black folk. His name is Steve Bradford. I've been honored to have had him on this program. I'll talk to you soon. All the best to you, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Dalton, Illinois' embattled mayor is taking action despite trustees canceling a meeting. African-American Mayor Tiffany Henyard appointed a new village admitted that they've been increasing about 2